Today our topic is Atari 2600. Our group members are me, Vipooshan Maheswaran, Sardar, Oryakhel, and Nicholas Poma. Um, Today my group and I will be exploring a gaming console by the name of Atari 2600. Atari 2600 was a product developed by Atari Inc., which was founded by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Davendy in the year of 1972. It was created when both of them found out that they have the same interests, and together they created a standalone computer connected to a monitor and also attached a coin slot to play games. At first, they created arcade games like Anti-Aircraft, Mini Golf, and Asteroid. However, they faced many failures with their creations and using all the knowledge from their past mistake, they finally released their blockbuster game called Pong. Next slide. After creating Pong, they faced many technical issues with the circuit board, which eventually brought them many financial issues in the same year. After reviewing their company's strategy, they decided to release Pong Home as a gaming system. And the design, Atari's, after all the Pong Home designs were finalized, Atari's vice presidents of sale, Bushnell and Gene Lipkin, approached many different major retailers to see if they would sell Pong Home to customers. But due to the high retail price, retailers declined to sell Pong Home at their store as they believed there would be incredibly low demand. Magnavox, Atari's rival, claimed that Atari stole the idea of design for a product that they were going to release called Odyssey. Amidst all of these issues, Atari's Pong game was a huge success, and many arcades stated that Atari's Pong was the most popular game at the arcade so far. After seeing Atari's success with their home game, Home Pong, many companies like Magnavox followed their strategies by adding simple hardware and new features and kept releasing new products. Next. By 1982, the Atari 2600 was the most dominant game in the system, even when competitors released new products in the gaming system market. However, due to some poor decisions made by Atari's management, the entire company and industry faced a recession. New games like Pong took over the market, while companies like Activision made millions and sold over 4 million units of systems. These companies like Activision, iMagic, Games by Apollo, Colco, and Parker Brothers also started to publish games for the Atari 2600. After many companies started to publish new games, Atari tried to refresh their products and come out on top by releasing new games. However, they couldn't repeat their success, and this resulted in consumers losing confidence in the company. All of Atari's main rivals had stopped making cartridge games and started to focus on personal computer games, while Atari was still stuck on making cartridge games. Atari had so many cartridges of unsold Pac-Man and E.T. the Extraterrestrial, it began to fill up their warehouses. So secretly, Atari buried most of their unsold games and consoles in a landfill in New Mexico. After this wild roller coaster ride, Atari finally stopped manufacturing the Atari 2600 in 1990. To this day, the Atari 2600 still remains as the longest selling game console in the history of gaming consoles. I'm done.
After products. So the successor to the popular 2600 model named Atari 5200 had a faster processor in general, but the analog controller was poorly built and it didn't center automatically. Also, the 5200's price of over $300 prevented it from matching its predecessor's success. The Atari Lynx is an 8-bit handheld game machine aimed to compete with handhelds like Turbo Express, Game Boy, and Game Gear. The Lynx was the world's first handheld gaming machine with a color LCD. In 1990, the Lynx sold about 500,000 copies in the United States. And finally, the Atari Jaguar was Atari's sixth programmable system, and it managed to support a wide range of games such as Doom, Alien vs. Predator, and other famous titles at that time that are now considered classics to this day. So new features, the Atari 2600 was so popular for more than 15 years due to its great appeal, relative affordability, and abundance of software titles. when we're comparing the Atari 2600 to the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, we can see that both systems have game libraries that are small enough to be portable. Both of these systems were monoliths in their respective eras. And till this day, nobody can really deny that the graphics on the NES were superior, but this is only one component of the total picture. Other factors to consider include the general enjoyment factor of the available games, the type of games accessible for each system, the controllers, and any other personal preferences. The NES was released after the Atari 2600, meaning it obviously is the superior console technologically wise. And finally, the Atari 2600 ushered in the video game frenzy, while the NES aided in the recovery from the crash. And moving on to pricing. So the Atari was all around simple, a joystick with attached buttons on the controller used to play, but the same which eventually paved the right path to gaming controllers present day. In general, Atari spent roughly $40 to make the console in 1982, and it sold for an average of $125 back then. Each cartridge costs $4.50 to $6 to manufacture, plus $1 to $2 for advertisements, with a wholesale price of $18.95. Till this day, the Atari 2600 sells for around 50 to 60 US, which is like 62 to 75 CAD. The worth of an Atari can normally vary by condition and also model to model. Although there are plenty of Atari 2600 consoles on the market, flawless original packaging is difficult to come by to this day.
Now we're going to talk about customer reviews. The Atari 2600 was one of the first video game consoles to be introduced into people's homes. Its popularity and recognition started off slow after the release date, but quickly picked up to be one of the biggest video game consoles in history. It came with a load of innovative features that are still being used on video game consoles today. Critics and customers were most fond of the durability of the console, along with the easy usability and the great audio quality. Some downfalls of the Atari 2600 were the poor blocky graphics, cheaply made, easily breakable controllers / joysticks, and the games that came out when it was released. Overall, customers and critics fell in love with the Atari 2600, and that is why it goes down as one of the best video game consoles in history. Next. Competitors. Just a year after the release, the Atari 2600, Intellivision, manufactured by Mattel, was released giving Atari a run for its money. The Intellivision was more advanced than the Atari 2600. From the hardware of the console to the better high-quality resolution graphics to much better and unique controllers. Mattel brought on many new innovations to the console gaming industry with the release of the Intellivision. However, the Atari 2600 still reigns supreme as one of the best gaming consoles of its era, and Intellivision was not able to dethrone Atari 2600 despite how much more technologically advanced it was. Next. On the left is the Atari 2600. Thoughts. Overall, the Atari 2600 is considered one of the best at-home video game consoles ever invented. Despite its flaws, it was the best video game console of its era by far. It won over the hearts of millions of people.
And just to wrap it up, thank you for listening. That is the end.